Hello everyone, thank you for joining us again at Edufy. My name is Miss Electoli and again we are here to talk about preposition in and into. So let's begin. In describes location or state. Now first of all we will look at the usage of in grammar and what is the contextually correct usage in grammar. So let's look at the word in. The word in is used to indicate that something is inside a space, area, or container. It shows that the subject is already within something. So we will have to look at whether in is denoting a location. And we can look at that through this example. The keys are in the drawer. When I say the keys are in the drawer, the word in suggests that the keys are already inside the drawer. So basically what we can understand from this is that the word in signifies a noun that is inside a space. If I say my friend is in the class, I'm talking about my friend being inside the class. So whenever we want to suggest that something is inside an enclosed space, we use the preposition in. The milk is in the fridge. Again, I'm going to talk about the milk, the location of the milk. Where is it? Inside the fridge. So whenever I want to signify something that is inside a fridge, I have used the preposition in. So whenever we're talking about something being inside or contained within boundaries. So basically we will have to understand this thing. Whenever we say inside something, what does it mean? It means it has boundaries, four walls and a ceiling. That is when we talk about things that are inside. So whenever we talk about or whenever we use the preposition in, we have to understand that it's inside an enclosed space. So it must have four walls and a ceiling to ensure that it is within that space. Now, into is a very important preposition as well, and most of the time grammar and English speakers always tend to confuse in and into. That is the reason why we must also understand the word into. What is the concept? Into indicates movement towards inside. So that means whenever you feel that a noun is in movement, we use the word into. Movement into an enclosed space. If I say earlier on when I talked about in, we said in the example that the box, right? We talked about the box. So if I say the ball is in the box, the ball is already inside the box. But if I say the ball fell into the box, into word suggests that it has moved from one space to another enclosed space. So the movement is important to understand differences between in and into. On other hand, you can look at this. Into is used to describe the movement towards the inside of something. So movement towards is the thing that you have to remember when we are talking about the difference between in and into. Movement is important when we're talking about the word into. So for example, let's say this is a box and you have a ball inside the box. Now I will have to use the word in because it is inside an enclosed space. However, if the ball has moved from this space to this space, then I will have to use the preposition into. So if you understand this concept, it will be easier for you to write this in any forms of sentences by understanding that in refers to something that is stationary within an enclosed space, whereas when we talk about into, it refers to an object moving from one particular place to another, signifying movement, but also inside an enclosed space. So for example, if I say the audience is in the auditorium, it is correct. The audience are inside the auditorium. But if I say the audience are moving into the auditorium, now what am I saying? They're walking into the auditorium. So there is movement. The audience are moving from outside to the inside. Word in and into is basically that very concept. Now let's move on to the examples. Let's see what are the differences here. If I say she put the keys into the drawer, that means the keys are in her hand and it has been placed inside the drawer. So the word into suggests that she has moved the keys from outside the drawer to the inside of it. Similarly, the cat jumped into the box. The cat has moved from the outside of the box to the inside of the box, signifying movement. Both of these sentences suggest that the nouns, that is pronouns and the nouns, she and the cat, right? Both of them are performing some kind of movement into the enclosed space. So that is the example that you can remember. So basic and the final understanding about the concept of in and into is two things. One, let's look at this example. He is in the room. He walked into the room. Both of these sentences have a similar connotation, same pronoun, but we have two different prepositions. And why is that? Because in the first sentence, it is talking about him being already inside the room. So if you have someone who is already inside the room and you're talking about that person, then you will have to use the preposition in. But if you're talking about someone who is not inside the room but is moving or has moved into the room from the outside, then you can use the preposition into. So two things, that concept that you have to be clear about is that already inside and moving from outside to the inside. If it's already inside, in. If it's moving from the outside to the inside, into. Now, let's look at the common situations and phrases. Now, when we say in has a lot of other uses as well when we talk about prepositions. So what is that? In is used with countries, cities, and large areas. For example, if I say she lives in India, that is correct. It is why? Because India is a country, therefore the preposition should be in. If I'm talking about cities, she or he lives in Delhi. Delhi is a city, so therefore in should be used in that sentence. If I write Mumbai, you're talking about somebody staying in Mumbai. Maybe you're trying to say John is dash Mumbai. You'll have to write the preposition in, because in should be used with cities as well, and also with large areas. She is in the park. That means they are already inside the park. They have already moved inside the park, and you're going to use in because it is a large area. Secondly, closed spaces. Again, in a box, in a car, in a classroom, in an auditorium, all the closed spaces, you will have to use the preposition in. Next, it's very important, an important concept is that time periods. When you have time periods, you will use the word in. That is to suggest that there is a time limit, or for example, if you're having years, let's say 1947, if you want to say this, right, you'll have to write in. My grandfather was born in 1947. Again, it should be in, not on, not at, but rather in. If you want to write this one, let's say she celebrated her birthday in 1950s. Again, time periods, 1950s, right? So again, you'll have to use the preposition in here. Whenever you have time periods, you will have to use the preposition in. One more context is that when we're talking about time limits as well. For example, if you're telling your friend to come meet you 4 hours, you've given your friend a time limit of 4 hours. So you will have to tell her, you should meet me in 4 hours. So preposition in should also be used not only with time periods but also in time limits. That means from the first hour to the fourth hour, there is a time limit where you will use the preposition in. So that is the context that we can use preposition in. However, into is mainly used with movement towards spaces and the change of states. That means what? Changing from something to the other. If I say water turns dash gas. So I'm changing the state of something to another. Whenever I am suggesting the state of, sorry, whenever whenever I'm suggesting the state changes, then I will have to write those preposition into. So, into a rage. Maybe someone is very calm and suddenly becomes angry. That means he or she has changed their state. So, again, I will have to write into a rage. Into trouble. Somebody was walking normal, having a good day, and suddenly runs into trouble. So, the state of his or her has changed. Again, you will have to write the preposition into. So heat transfers into metal. Again, I'm talking about the heat and then metal, right? So the state changes within the sentence will be signified with the preposition into. So into has two concepts that you have to be very clear about, and that is movement towards spaces and then changes of state. So with this, we can move on to the next part, and that is solving a quick quiz. So let's test whatever you have talked about, whatever we have talked about in the previous sections. Can we solve this? First sentence, she put the letter dash the envelope. What should we write here? We're talking about her putting something inside the envelope, and that is putting the letter inside the envelope. So we will have to write what? We will have to write in. Why? Because it is talking about an enclosed thing. So therefore, preposition in should be here. They arrived dash the office at 9 a.m. They arrived. That means it shows movement from one place to another. Now what has happened? They've come from the car, from the buses into the office. So there will have to be a preposition into, suggesting movement from one place to another. Next one, he jumped dash the lake. He has jumped from the bank of the lake into the lake. So again, there is a movement from one space into another. The book is dash the bag. That means this one is talking about something that is already inside the bag. So therefore, preposition in should be the right answer. Next one, she went dash the building quickly. So we also see a movement suggested here in the sentence. So therefore, what should be the answer? Into. She went into the building, suggesting movement from one place to another. If you have gotten all of this correct, then you are very clear about the concept of in and into. And please follow us for more such interesting content. Thank you very much and have a nice day.